The story of Dovima is a pretty sad one. She is a model that I think that more people should know about, but it's just very sad how she was on top of the world, literally the highest paid supermodel of all time, full of grace, elegance, and beauty, and making a lot of money, but somehow ended her life working at a pizza parlor as a hostess. Could you imagine wearing one of the first elegant night dresses designed by a young Yves Saint Laurent before he even became the Yves Saint Laurent, and only to end up working at a pizza parlor at the end of your life, dying penniless without anyone knowing who you really was? What happened? How did she end up here? It's a very sad tale, but in this video today, we are going to get into it. But first, hey friend, welcome to my channel, Karine, where we deep dive and break down the most iconic stars through history. If you're not yet subscribed, please be sure to do so. And if you're already subscribed, please turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Now, without further ado, let's get into this video. We are going to start off with her childhood and transition into her career, but unfortunately, this will be a short video because Dovima really didn't talk about her life that much, and because of how her life ended, people just didn't really care to know about her later life as much. And there's no photos of her as a baby or anything like that, or even of her husbands, etc. Her life was really private, and unfortunately, people just didn't care, which is really heartbreaking because she was a pioneer, and she broke a lot of barriers and really changed the game a lot, as we will see. But Dovima, a name that sounds like it was plucked straight from a fairy tale, was born Dorothy Virginia Margaret Juba in the bustling borough of Queens, New York, on December 11th, 1927. She was the daughter of a Polish-American cop and an Irish mother. She had a little brother named Stanley Jr. Dovima grew up really sickly and sheltered, and because she was so sick, she grew up being homeschooled and was a pretty shy and reserved child. She played alone often and never thought of herself as a beautiful swan, more like a skinny, ugly duckling. She broke her front teeth one day while playing in her mother's closet, and she refused to smile after that, becoming insecure with her teeth. Though she was homeschooled, Dovima did not grow up rich. They grew up pretty poor. She also grew up under her mother's thumb, and because she was sickly, they didn't really give her much freedom. But her life was about to drastically change. Once Dovima got a taste of freedom from her mom's eagle eyes, she hit the bustling streets of Manhattan, and wouldn't you know it, a Vogue editor spots her and thinks, bingo, she is gorgeous. Next thing Dovima knows, she's in front of the camera working her first gig with none other than Irving Penn. And guess what? She nailed it, despite keeping her mouth closed in the photos to hide her chipped tooth. The camera loved her. While her not smiling was meant to hide an insecurity, it actually made her photos look more ethereal and elegant. She glamorized the RBF and the smile. She made it popular to not have to smile and be all bubbly in photos and just be really elegant and graceful. You can thank her for that. Who knew her not smiling would give her that mysterious vibe? Dovima's career skyrocketed, especially when she teamed up with Richard Avedon. Together, they created magic. Ever heard of Dovima with the elephants? The iconic shot of her in Paris, draped in a stunning black gown amongst circus elephants, is basically the stuff of legends. The dress was Yves Saint Laurent's debut piece for Christian Dior. Dovima was reputed to be the highest paid model of her time, demanding $60 per hour when most of the top models were receiving only about around $25 per hour, which was a lot of money back then, okay? Being the dollar a minute girl, Dovima was ranking in the bucks, setting the bar high in the modeling world. She and Avedon were like two peas in a pod, always on the same wavelength. Avedon adored her, praising her elegance and ease, qualities that made her stand out from the rest. But as all good things must come to an end, Diana Vreeland decided it was time for new faces at Vogue, and just like that, Dovima's reign came to an end. Yet her legacy lived on. Remembered as Avedon's muse, the woman who brought his visions to life, just like a painter with his beloved medium. Dovima was not just any model, she was a full-on diva in front of the camera, giving life to characters, making every shot an epic tale. But despite her glamorous work life, Dovima was a total homebody at heart. She traveled with her hubby and a stash of comic books. She hated modeling, actually, and found it quite underwhelming because people did not expect models to be smart or have personalities. She only needed to be a mannequin with a slim waist and gorgeous face. She honestly just wanted to be alone with her comic books most of the time, still crawling into her own skin and reverting to the timid, sheltered child she once was. Richard Avedon, the photography legend, absolutely adored Dovima. He once said she haunted men in an erotic manner, which is quite the compliment if you think about it. Her face was everywhere, becoming the dream girl for guys and the envy of women around the globe. Now, here's where it gets Hollywood level interesting. Dovima snagged a role in Funny Face, that iconic movie with Audrey Hepburn and Fred Astaire. Inspired by Avedon's life, in the film, there's this hilarious character screaming, "Think Pink," who's kind of based on the mighty Diana Vreeland of Vogue. In Dovima, she played a model who's nuts about comic books, just like in real life, about herself. So in a sense, she was playing herself. Speaking of comics, let's talk about the time she went to Egypt with Avedon. He thought she'd pack a trunk full of fancy clothes for their shoot. Nope, it was crammed with her beloved comic books. Her whole suitcase was filled to the brim with comic books. Dovima dropped a real gem when she found out Egypt was in Africa, saying, "It is? Good Lord, if I'd known I was going to Africa, I'd have charged double," end quote. Avedon had this vision of capturing Dovima in front of the Sphinx, thinking she was the spitting image of Queen Nefertiti. And Dovima, ever the drama queen, felt a mystical connection with the Sphinx, claiming it called out to her. This woman was living in her own fabulous world, nearly taking a tumble off the Eiffel Tower during a shoot because she got too caught up in the moment. Riding high on her Funny Face fame, Dovima tried her hand at acting. She studied at Lee Strasberg Actors Studio and appeared on TV shows like Bewitched and The Man from U.N.C.L.E. She had a lot of versatility. But here's the kicker. Despite being the highest paid model of her era, Dovima ended up broke. She trusted her husbands with her money, and they just blew through it. She was the face everyone wanted on their magazine covers, the model every designer dreamed of dressing. But behind those glamorous photo shoots and dazzling smiles, Dovima's personal life was a mess. Her friend, Carmen Del, spilled the tea on Dovima's love life, and it wasn't pretty. According to Carmen, Dovima had a knack for falling for the wrong guys, the kind who left her bruised and battered. Sadly, she could only be with men who beat her. "I'd find her on my doorsteps, black and blue, and I'd take her in and she'd live with me," end quote. Talk about heartbreaking. She was also always too timid to take up for herself and could easily be convinced that she was worthless and unattractive. Every man she dated started to take instant control of her finances, buying fancy homes and cars, and also demanding that she charge photographers and agencies more than what they were willing to pay. She started to sour her relationships within the industry, and she adapted the persona of a difficult woman who allowed every man she dated to dictate her affairs. Dovima's first trip down the aisle was with her upstairs neighbor, Jack Golden. But like many of her fashion trends, that marriage went out of style by the late 50s. Then came Alan Murray, and let's just say he wasn't exactly husband of the year. Mimi Swartz wrote in Vanity Fair about the beatings Dovima endured from Murray, saying, and I quote, "At times her husband beat her so severely that she could not show up for work. It did not at first cut into her bookings," end quote. Then he started to beat her so bad that even makeup couldn't cover the bruises, and she had to cut bookings. Those who loved her would try to motivate her to leave, but Dovima's self-esteem was so low, she just couldn't see her worth, and time again, she would return back to her oppressors. The plot thickens when Dovima tried to finally escape Murray. She and her daughter Allison moved to Los Angeles so she can chase her acting dreams and start fresh. But instead of finding fame, she found more drama when Murray played the ultimate dirty trick and reported their daughter Allison kidnapped to the FBI. The fallout was brutal. Dovima lost custody of Allison and never saw her again. Can you even imagine? She had to unfortunately leave her daughter behind. Thus began the complicated battle with sobriety, with alcohol being her vice of choice. The depression was immeasurable, and she found herself crying a lot. With Hollywood giving her the cold shoulder and no more modeling gigs on the horizon because she started to age, Dovima packed up and moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida in 1974. There she hustled like never before, doing everything from hosting at restaurants to selling cosmetics. But guess what? Love finally decided to give Dovima a break. She met Wes Hollingsworth at work, and they tied the knot in 1983, enjoying 12 years of bliss until cancer took him away in 1986. And just when she thought she'd found her happily ever after, tragedy struck again. In her final chapter, Dovima worked as a hostess at Two Guys Pizzeria in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, until liver cancer claimed her life on May 3rd, 1990. And some suspect she got the liver cancer from her, vice of alcohol. From a supermodel to a survivor of abuse, from an aspiring actress to a pizza joint hostess, Dovima lived many lives, and despite the roller coaster, she left an incredible mark on the fashion world. As Dorian Lee, which I just did a video for, and I'll pin on the end cards in the comment section for you guys, she was a crazy story also, crazy story. As she put it, she said, and I quote, she didn't understand she could be someone without it, speaking about modeling. She never really felt in control of what happened to her, end quote. Dovima's story is a stark reminder that behind the glitz and glam, there's often a tale of resilience and survival. And what's really sad about her story is that no one really cared about her poverty or what she was doing now or where she was until they found out she died. Then you see countless articles, oh, let's give her flowers, let's da-da-da-da. Look at all the accomplishments that she accomplished. And then the articles were also, I don't know, weird for my taste, where it was more so like, look how she ended up, you know? Oh my goodness. But where was all this support when she was still living and able to receive her flowers? I know she's still gone, but leave some flower emojis in the comments for her, because I hate the most with the industry, especially the beauty industry, with ageism. It's a real thing. The fact that she could have went on to be a great actress and, you know, continued to model because she loved it so much. But her age, they just discarded her and they wanted fresher, younger, and more youthful faces. And I just hate how they discarded women. But men in the industry at that time, they were allowed to age gracefully and still continue to have careers, while these women had to figure themselves out. And Dovima, unfortunately, was that. And I cannot imagine wearing Dior, wearing pearls and diamonds, and traveling to Egypt and Africa and so many other places, doing these exotic shoots, and going from living in luxurious penthouses and mansions to now staying in a small tiny apartment with none of that, working as a pizza hostess. Not that anything is wrong with that, but can you imagine the contrast of having to go back? But one thing with Dovima, she did start out her life pretty poor, and so by the end of it, she was never like too up on her high horse to work a real job. She did what she had to do to support herself and would work at any job, not caring about her status. She just wanted to support herself and wanted to make it. And she never thought, like, you know, oh my goodness, I can't do this job because, ooh, these people are going to recognize me, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't working out for her. She was doing like selling even Avon at one point, like going door to door, selling makeup, you know, anything that she could get her hands on to work and do, she would just do. I do want to end this on a positive note and talk about her beauty secrets a little bit, but don't forget to leave the flower emojis in the comments for her. But she never kept to a diet. I know you guys are looking at her waist and it's like, what waist, right? But she never had any diet. On the contrary, she ate very nutritious though, trying to gain the cherished weight. She really wanted to gain weight because since she was little, she didn't like her bone structure at all. Her face, she always thought it was skeletal and long, and she would often compare herself to like horse and stuff. So she really wanted to gain weight. But part of her being so slim, she was very active and liked to stand up a lot and move around a lot. Okay, she had a very high metabolism. She also said, and I quote, I know some people starve themselves, but I eat well and enjoy my burger, but I also eat a lot of healthy food and run and do yoga. So this was around the time I don't think yoga was even that popular, and she was still, you know, doing those forms of workouts. So she was pretty active and needed that stamina for it. I think she wore clothes so beautifully. She was like a mannequin. She had so much grace and elegance. I love her long neck. You know, I really think she was just a very gorgeous woman down to the very end, because she did age pretty gracefully. And though it's unfortunate how things ended, I still think her story is truly inspirational, that she still got up and did what she had to do to take care of her for herself. So it's not like a sad story to the very like pitiful, you know. I don't want people to more so feel sorry for her, but just remember her as a fighter and very resilient, okay? I'm gonna leave a mini tribute of her outfits in the end for you guys, but comment below who else would you guys like me to do a video for, and leave some flower emojis in the comments, and check out my Susie Parker and Dorian Lee videos. Those are other iconic models from the 40s and 50s that was just superb, okay? I love you guys. If you like the music, you listen to the link is in the description. Until next time.